think the grief that leads to the men's movement began maybe 140 years ago when the Industrial Revolution began, which sends the father out of the house to work.
What impact did that have?
Well, we receive something from our father by standing close to him.
Physically?
When we stand physically close to our father, something moves over that can't be described in material terms, that gives the son a certain confidence, an awareness, a knowledge of what it is to be male, what a man is. And in the ancient times, you were always with your father. He taught you how to do things. He taught you how to farm. He taught you to whatever it is he did. You learned from him, but you had this sense of receiving a food from him.
Food.
A food from your father's body. Now, when the father went out of the house in the Industrial Revolution, that food ended. And I think the average American father now spends 10 minutes a day with the son. I think that's what the Minneapolis Tribune had. And half of that time is spending, clean up your room. You know, it's a favorite phrase of mine. I know it well. So the Industrial Revolution did not harm father and daughter relationship as much as it did the father and son, because the mother and daughter still stand close to each other and have stood close to each other. Maybe that'll change now when the mother is being sent out to work also. But the daughters then receive some knowledge of what it is to be a woman, or if you prefer to call it, the female mode of feeling. They receive knowledge of the female mode of feeling. And the mother gets that from her grandmother, who got it from her great-grandmother, who gets it from her great-grandmother, goes all the way down. After the Industrial Revolution, the male does not receive any knowledge from his father of what the male mode of feeling is. And the old male initiators that used to work are not working anymore.
What do you mean, male initiators?
Well, in the traditional times, you're not initiated by your father because there's too much tension between you and your father. You're initiated by older, unrelated males, is the word that's used. Older, unrelated men. They may be friends of your fathers. They could even be uncles or grandfathers. But they're the ones who used to do it. Then they disappear. Then it all falls on the father to do. Then the father is off at the office. Do you see the picture?
Yeah. In fact, in some of the traditional cultures, a night arrives and a group of men show up at a boy's house and they take him away from the home and they don't bring him back for several days. And then when he comes back, he has ashes on his face.
Yeah. In New Guinea, where they still do it today, the men come in with spears to get the boys. The boys know nothing about the men's world. They lived with their mother completely. They say, Mama, save us from these men that are coming here. Now, all over New Guinea, the women accept and the men accept one sentence. A boy cannot be made into a man without the active intervention of the older men. Now, when they all accept that, then the women's job is to be participants in this drama. So the men come and take the boys away, and the boys are saying, save me, Mama, Then they go across, and the men have built, let's say on an island, they built a house for the boys, an initiation hut. Then they take them across the bridge, and 3 or 4 of the women, whose boys these are, get their spears and meet them on the bridge. And the old men have their spears, and the boys are saying, save me, Mama, save me, these are horrible men are taking me away, and they fight and everything, and then the women are driven back. Then the women all go back and have coffee and say, how'd I do? How'd I look? So that wonderful participation in it, the women are not doing the initiating, they're participating. And then, as you said, then he'll stay with the men for a year, maybe. Then they will explain to him something has to die to be born, and what will have to die is the boy. This is what isn't happening to the men in this culture. I was giving a reading in Minnesota in my little town this year, and I gave Rapunzel and the cutting off the golden hair of Rapunzel, and I said to the audience, how many of you, do you remember when you had your golden hair cut off? And then later a young man came up to me at the party afterwards, and he said, I didn't dare say anything at that time, but this is what happened to me. I was about 15 and my parents wanted my long hair off. And I refused to cut it off. One day they got me and they tied me down and they cut it off. I started to beat the ground and I was weeping and hitting the floor. And while I had stopped hitting the floor, I was still weeping, my grandfather walked in. And he saw immediately what had happened. I said, what'd your grandfather do? They lived in Long Island. He took the boy out to the ocean, and he said to the boy, you see this ocean? This is for you. This ocean is going to be here, whether you have long hair or short hair. And only the grandfather can say that. And then that man said to me, you know, he was right. He said, I went away, 6 years later I came back, I looked at the ocean, and wham! It was incredible, like my grandfather had given it to me. I said, unbelievable, unbelievable. That's the kind of thing that the older men do that your father can't do.